Uh, Hi, a very good afternoon, good evening to everybody. And I'm Imran Kapadia. Most of you have been seeing me every Friday afternoon when we do our webinars. And today we have a very eminent personality, Rahul Bose, with us. Rahul, firstly, thank you for joining in and thank you for being a part of our series of webinars. Before I bring you up on stage, I would like to introduce everybody to Dr. Indu Shahani, who is not just the chairperson and the president of the ecosystem, but she is actually the force behind all of us who work with her, and Rahul in some way behind everybody who's in the room. Not to mention names, but everybody in the room. Dr. Shahani, over to you.
Thank you so much. And a warm welcome to you, Rahul. The last we met was probably the HR college when I was producing chartered accountants. As you know, we produce the largest number of chartered accountants in HR college. And from there, imagine coming and starting a school of design, a school of management entrepreneurship, a school of communication, school of hospitality. All of them are here on this, no matter
Wonderful.
what they are doing. But the most importantly, and one of our absolutely youngest school, and this year is this film school. And I never thought that, I'd land up in starting a film school. But then I realized that the skills of the future was not just the big four and chartered accountancy, but you needed different skills and you needed to move with the times. And I'm very happy that the Vancouver Film School worked with us on this, and we set up the first film school here. And imagine not telling you that, but it didn't take me long, because the very first time that I talked to my students, the incoming students, the students who are currently here, we are only a year old, and this year the new batch is coming in, and their head, we have a very dynamic head, Professor Jitendra here with us, and Jitendra Arora, and he said to me that, ma'am, we've been doing webinars, but my students are asking for Rahul Bose. And I said, oh my gosh, why did I not think of Rahul Bose all this time? And I said, sure, I'm calling you up now. And I actually called you up and you responded within 3 minutes. And you told me, yes, I'll do this. I think, Rahul, that is very sweet of you. Thank you so much. You've got 156 new incoming students and the current students waiting in the wings here to listen to you. Plus you have the design school students. And I spotted some of my senior postgraduate diploma students in management, the MBA kids here. Now look, guys, go get your jobs. And they're all waiting here to listen to you. I'm quite happy. They're all on internships. And when I call them for an evening meeting, they say, oh man, we are working. And I saw them here today. So you've got them, you've got faculty here too. And I think it's very exciting, Rahul, especially when we online, it's very exciting, but on site, when you come over to the school and you see, the kind of school we've created, you'll really be happy. I'm not going to tell you more about the school because I might just break into a chartered accountancy lecture. I'm going to leave that to Siddharth, who's very excited about showing you what the school is. But just to say a very warm welcome. Thank you, Rahul.
Before Siddharth, thank you. Before Siddharth says anything, Indu, you are an inspiration to everybody in this city. You lead a multidimensional, multifaceted life, but all of it is devoted to excellence amongst people in Bombay, Mumbaikars. And I've been a recipient of that. So 3 minutes is too long to take to reply to you. It should have been 30 seconds. But thank you for having me here. It's a privilege. And soon, whenever Jitendra invites me, I'll come to the school in person.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. And look forward to that. Good. And we do have the best cappuccino because the hospitality school is just above the film school. So that's a date.
Date.
So
Thank you.
I'm gonna invite Siddharth Shahani. Siddharth is also the co-founder of the school, and Sid, you have a few slides to show. So I'm gonna bring your slides up as well, and I leave the floor for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Imran. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. It's really been a privilege for us to have you, and more importantly, introduce our school to you. We were very excited. We always knew we wanted to create a school of film, a school of entertainment arts, really. That's why we haven't actually named it a film school. We've named it a School of Entertainment Arts. It's in partnership with Vancouver Film School, because we really felt that, bridging global boundaries for entertainment is something that our schools have done very well in the past with our design school. And therefore, we were very lucky when Vancouver agreed to partner with us for their first campus in Asia. For those who don't know Vancouver Film School, it's really the #1 school for animation. It's the #1 school for VFX. They have a very, very renowned program on makeup and prosthetics. That's something also that we are very excited about bringing to India. And also they have now another campus in China. So as part of their international network, we're one of 3 international campuses taking forward a 30-year legacy. What we've done is, and this is the team when they visited us, and you can see our team which visited them over there. There have been 3 real foundation pieces that we've looked at. One is, of course, the curriculum. So how do we build a enriched curriculum for performing arts, for entertainment arts, for film? How do we ensure that there are faculty and we train the faculty? And more important, how do we create opportunities for all our students and faculty for global mobility? So that's really been the basis of our partnership with them, to ensure that these 3 pillars are covered. In terms of their alumni, they have done a lot of work, as we all know, right from Spider-Man to Blade Runner to Ferdinand. All of these multi-mega stars that we have all got used to seeing is something that either their students have worked on or acted in. And of course, they're highly awarded, as we discussed. Of course, the proof is always in the pudding, and their students and their faculty have been highly awarded. But I think Jitendra is going to talk to you a lot more about that. So this is when they visited us, and Jitendra, over to you. On behalf of all the 5 schools, Rahul, a very, very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for making it this evening.
My pleasure, Siddharth. I've heard from your mom just how much of a mover and shaker you've been with this entire enterprise over the last few years. So, as I said, anything I can do to help, I'm always there.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Shani. Thank you, Siddharth.
Just before Jitendra, before we bring Professor Arora, we'd like to show you a couple of slides on student work. Because there's that's the real output that you'll be able to see, and then maybe Jitendra can talk more about what we do. Jitendra, yeah.
Actually, like Siddharth said, the proof's in the pudding. I'm not going to talk about the school as much as I want to take this opportunity to screen some of the work that students have done, because finally this is a big evening where there are about 200 guests here. There's Rahul Bose and who else to sort of premiere their work, and it's first year. It's just been 1 year. They've just done some work, so I'm very, very honored to present it to all of you, and I'm really pleased work up on the screen. So we have 2 programs, 2 undergrad programs, Rahul. We have a program in film production, and we have a program in 3D animation and VFX. So we have 2 batches actually, and it's a small size, but it's a small and well bonded group of people. And I kind of have this attitude to learn along with them and not so much to teach, but it's a great camaraderie that we've been able to establish. And the result of this kind of friendly relationship that we've established with the students is the kind of work that they've been able to produce. Now, Vancouver lays a lot of emphasis on learning from the masters. So yes, of course, you're stepping, it's too early for you to step into the shoes of the masters, but at the same time, it's also important to learn from them. And what could be a better way to learn than to imitate? So the first few exercises that our students have done are basically imitation exercises, where they've taken a Star Wars scene maybe and try to replicate it with their own existing skills. So the models have been made for them, or they have also been borrowed, but the animation, the movement has been done for them to understand camera movement, to understand timing and spacing, and so on. So this is one film that I'd like to show, Imran.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So that was more about.
This is a fun exercise where.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a fun exercise because you had this reference, and then you had to sort of emulate it and try and get a sense of space. All right, in terms of everything. And the next, similar to this, our film students have done a couple of exercises which I'd like to show now. So one of them, so they were divided into two groups. One of them started to replicate a scene from The Accountant. So I think on one side is the accountant, the film accountant with Ben Affleck, and then we have our own students acting and directing and producing this shot.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so the idea here was, it wasn't meant to be such a big project that it turned out to be, but it's all thanks to the effort that students have put in converting classrooms into conference rooms, in arranging for props and material, in finding an actor who looks similar, could act similar, and then looking at every little detail. And this project sort of gave us the confidence in the entire team, in the teachers and the students, to say that we could do something. We at least have the eye to notice the details, and if we have that, I think we're going in the right direction. The other team from film production took a more ambitious project. They took the teaser of Bombshell, which was released last year, and which was basically voicing about the Me Too movement, and especially the episode that happened in the United States. This was an all-girls team initially, and I felt the choice was really right for them to speak about women, and anyone can, but I think I thought that they made a very, very, very interesting and very brave choice, and why not? And this was more ambitious, involved more places, more characters, more and definitely a lot many shots than The Accountant had. So this is the replication here.
excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
So just before we, Jitendra, before you formally welcome Rahul, before we do what we are supposed to do and start our webinar, because we have three very important people in the room together at the same time. Rahul, we won't start until we have a launch that we want to do. So I would request, and this is virtual world, right? So we would want you to virtually. So what we have is a small promo clip for the school, and along with your presence, Dr. Shani's presence, and Siddharth, all of us together, I would want you to say lights, camera, action, so that we can launch our promo clip. So this is going to be done virtually. This is going to be done with you, and you're the one who's going to do it for us.
Okay, give us the countdown. We'll say it together.
Whenever I'm actually ready. 1 minute, and I'm ready now. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Lights, camera, action.
Change.
There we go.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Jitendra, we'll leave the floor to you now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Shani. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Imran. And thank you all the guests, and especially Mr. Rahul Bose, for accepting our invitation and coming to talk to our students. So like I had shared with you, this is going to be a moderated conversation where I have a few questions lined up for you, and we'll go about sort of discussing those. And I've been very interested in your films, really. So around the cusp of the century, the turn of the century, we'd seen a lot of films, English films made in India come and release on screens. And they were, I think we were just entering the multiplex phenomena at that moment. And these are also sometimes known as multiplex films. And that point of time, I had the chance to see you in Bombay Boys, Split Wide Open, and also your own directorial debut, which was Everybody Says I'm Fine. At that point of time, I hadn't really I liked all these movies, and they were presenting an India, an urban India to us that we hadn't really thought existed, as at least some of us who were coming from smaller towns. And it was a great exposure, but we were not sure as to whether the trend would catch on and there'd be more of this kind of cinema that we'll see. But when I saw your directorial debut, which was Everybody Says I'm Fine, I was really stunned. I was like, suddenly I hadn't seen much of Woody Allen then, but I felt that there was a touch of Woody Allen to it, because there was this, all the characters were sort of under some sort of a sort of psychosis, if I could call that. You're talking about the urban landscape of Mumbai, and I felt that you presented Mumbai almost like New York, the vibe, the troubles that people face, the troubles that they go through, relationship issues, and all of that. And so it seemed like a very sensitive portrayal of a side of Bombay that I think a lot of people who are not from Bombay would see. And I don't know why I felt like asking you, where did the inspiration for that film come from?
The film is in 3 lines. Everybody says I'm fine, but nobody is.
Yeah.
And the best chance you have to be fine is to say that you're not. So that was the observation that I had observed amongst many, many people, some very, very close to me, some not so close to me, that we spend all of our lives wrapped up in an artifice that is so exhausting. And that artifice is always about trying to show that everything is well, your life is successful, everything is going brilliantly. And that takes such a toll. To keep up that artifice takes such a toll on people that in a matter of a few years, there's nothing left of that person. There's nothing really there's nothing that you're putting back into yourself. Everything is artificial. Everything is meant to be this brittle showpiece in front of who you really are. And I could never understand why people would do that if it made them more unhappy. If it made them unhappier than if they had just been human enough and secure enough to say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And so exhausting emotionally and physically. So that was from where the idea began to stem in my head, germinate, that how do I make a movie about the futility of doing this and about how life could be better. And of course, then my mad mind thought of reading people's minds. Is she a masseuse? Is he a masseuse? Is she a hairdresser? Is he a hairdresser? What is the device with which we can go into the interiority of people, their mindscapes, what they're thinking, what they're feeling without not expressing? So the hairdressing salon is a device, and it's a magic realistic device. And the hairdresser, I began to then develop a second layer to the film, which is he has the ability to read people's minds, but he got this ability through a deep tragedy in his life. And all he wants to do actually is to be freed of this beautiful blessing to most people, but a curse to him, because all it does is it weighs him down with everybody else's problems. And so that therefore at the end of the film, when he takes a step to reducing pain in the world actively, not passively, he loses that cursed blessing. And the first thing he says is, I'm free. So that's another layer. That's almost a karmic layer that I put into the film. It just emerged out of nowhere. And it had nothing much to do with the central premise, which is everybody's fine, nobody is. You can be if you say you're not fine. And that became it's almost metaphysical at some level about what he's going through. And that juxtaposed in counterpoint, actually, not juxtaposed, in counterpoint with Koel's character, who is this brightly painted butterfly, who says everything that she feels like saying, and yet inside, her subconscious is silent. And he realizes that only the very damaged people, or only the very evolved people, perhaps like the Dalai Lama, whose subconscious is the conscious. Or there are some people who spend their whole life saying, don't think about it, don't talk about it, don't think about it. And they suppress it so far down and they emerge as painted butterflies. And he very quickly realizes she's the latter, and then what happens? So the crux of it is my observation that to keep up appearances and pretenses is so exhausting. And you think you're doing the right thing because it'll make you happier, but in fact, you're doing the absolutely wrong thing.
So just a quick note for our audience. We've known Rahul as an actor. He's an award-winning actor, but he's also an award-winning director. And today we are going to focus more on two films that he launched. Was written in 2001, 2002. Everybody Says I'm Fine. The title sort of has some similarity to what Woody Allen had once made in 1996 called Everybody Says I Love You. And I thought that was an amazing sort of comparison to bring home. And also the second film that you made much later, after many years, called Purna. Purna is a very, very interesting story, but here I see a different directorial style that you've adopted, and we'll talk about it a little later. Rahul's also, you're also a sports person, and you're a multifaceted person. You started your career by being a creative director in an ad studio. And it would be difficult to fathom all of this, to connect all of these together today. So I think we've focused on the directorial aspect of his work. So today we'd be discussing two of his movies, Everybody Says I'm Fine, especially, and how he's gone about experimenting with two completely different, very evolved approaches to directing. So Everybody Says I'm Fine was very, very fascinating. It was new age. And I felt that you also, but the treatment was very, very colorful, at least. And also the fact you're thinking of a new generation of occupation, hairdresser, a very cool hairdresser who speaks in English, and kind of also reads your mind as he cuts your hair. How did that come about? Why masseuse and hairdresser? Why that? It could have been anyone else or
Well, I had to choose a
any
profession
other
where,
occupation.
Jitendra, I had to choose a
Someone
profession
deals
where,
with people.
where the person was in contact with human beings.
Oh, okay.
Genuine physical contact. There had to be some kind of touch, some kind of connection. And as I said, that's where massage therapists came into my mind. But the reason why I turned towards hairdressing salons is because people talk so much when they're having a haircut. And most of it is like a unguarded stream of consciousness kind of thing, you know. From the old days when you spoke to your barber, you know, the king speaking to the barber about state secrets and the barber whispering it into a tree and the tree's bark becoming something, and one day someone plays the flute and all the king's, secrets come out of that flute which was made from the bark of the tree, into which the barber told all the secrets because he couldn't tell anybody else, etc., etc. And I keep thinking that, I kept thinking that hairdressing salons is where it's almost believable that yes, somebody would be gabbing away and you think that what they're speaking is the truth because they're unguarded, they're just talking away, it's a stream of consciousness kind of thing. But in actuality, below that so-called truth, there's another layer. So we lead public lives, we lead private lives. And we think that out of the public life, the private life is something that we are now listening to in the salon, where there's no glare of cameras, there's nobody at a party listening to you. But actually there's a secret life. There's a third life beneath that all of us lead, where we dig our noses, where we break wind. And we don't do that in public. We don't do that in private. We do that secretly. We do that on our own when we are alone. So it was that secret life that I wanted people to think that, oh, they're watching people in a salon. They're confessing something. But in actuality, there's another layer beneath that, which is the secret life. So, earlier people used to say, we must meet and go out for dinner. Nowadays, people say, listen, forget about going out for dinner. Just come home. And you think, wow, that's the genuine thing. But they still don't mean it. They still don't want you to come to their homes. So below all of that is the fact that actually, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to meet anyone. I just want to go home, be alone, sit with a tub of popcorn and watch Netflix or whatever it might be. The reason I set it in upscale Bombay at the time is because that's the only city, this is the only world I knew before I went into my non-profit organizations, which I've been running for 15 years, before I got involved with the whole of the rest of the country through various issues, starting with gender discrimination in 2002. So it is way before all of that I said, this is the only world I know. So I'll set it in a world I know where the tone, where the note will be absolutely true. And I remember Anurag Kashyap saw the film and I got a call at about 1 o'clock in the morning one night, many months after Everybody Says I'm Fine had released. And he said, hello. So I said, yes. He said, मैं अनुराग बोल रहा हूँ. I said, hi Anurag, क्या हो रहा है? He said, नहीं यार, I just saw Everybody Says I'm Fine. So I said, so many months after the release. He said, हाँ यार, मुझे DVD मिल गया तो मैंने DVD भी देख लिया. And he said, then I put it off and I saw it again. So I said, why? He said, yeah, because it is so real. It is so true. I mean, you know exactly what you're talking about. And the world you're creating is something that is so sure that even though I don't know the world, I'm sure that this is the accurate world that you're representing. And so I just watched it and I was, kya picture banai hai? Even today when he meets me, he'll say, that's the film that was way ahead of its time and things like that. So bottom line is I focused on the hairdressing salon part because I wanted contact. And I set it in South Bombay. I set it in
Physical contact.
I set it in a very fashionable part. I wanted the salon owner to be English speaking because that's the world that I know best. And as a first-time film director, unlike Satyajit Ray, who went into the villages of Bengal to make Pother Panchali, although he had not come from a village and never lived in a village, I was not that brave to do that. I chose instead to do it in something I was familiar with.
Also, Pather Panchali was based on a book, so I guess that reference for him. So that the book could have provided him everything that he lacked. But here was an original script. You wrote that script and you also directed it. Was writing, so you started your career as acting, in acting, and then finally started writing. How did that come about? How did this urge to express, urge to write your own story, and then eventually direct it come about?
No, it was just an urge to write a story. I didn't even think of a
Okay.
film. I just wrote a story.
Okay.
And as I wrote the story, I liked it so much, I said, this can be a film. So then I began to write an episodic breakdown in prose. What happens? What happens next? What happens next? Then I said, okay, now this is how I write. This is how I wrote The Whisperers, which I didn't direct, a two-man thriller with Manoj Bajpayee and me. And then I write a story. Then I write a what happens next. So the story could be one page, one paragraph. So I write a what happens next, like I'm narrating it to you. Then I write it as, okay, now let me set it scene-wise. And then finally I write the dialogue. So once I'd finished writing the story, once I'd finished writing the episodic breakdown, I knew that this could be a hypnotic, very interesting film. And by then I decided that I wanted to make it. I wanted to direct it. And I was only 4 films old as an actor. But Vivek Vaswani and his funders at Insight Productions were very, very brave and generous. And they loved the story. They loved the emotion behind it. They loved the fact that anybody could identify with this, rich or poor or from the middle class, because everybody has these problems and everybody says, "Ha, sab theek hai." You know, remember that story? Is it Premchand's story, Parda? Or is it, did Premchand write Parda? Which is all about the gorgeous Parda in front of a home, which owned by ex-royalty or some kind of Nawabi background. But actually all the women behind the Parda are almost naked because they have hardly anything to wear. And there's no food or anything like that. And people come over and it so transpires at one point that they want food and there's no food coming from inside the house, and they tear the parda down and they see the reality inside. And it's so searing and it hits you so hard that people will go to any length to keep their respectability. Whereas they should be going to any length to keep their family, their loved ones happy and themselves happy. And even if it means that you do a menial job, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're doing something very noble because you're keeping yourself and your loved ones alive and healthy.
And you said, so you'd worked with Dave Bennicle and you'd worked with Kaizad Gustaf till then. So Dave Bennicle in English August and Split Wide Open, and Kaizad Gustaf in Bombay Boys, right? Did their directorial style influence or give you the courage to tell the story in the way you wanted to tell it as a director? What kind of influence did they have? Did you show them the script? Did you discuss it with them? Is it common to do that in the film industry, first of all?
No, not at all. Okay. It might be common to do that with friends, but I didn't show it to either of them. I only knew that you could make a film in English, and provided you brought it under a certain budget, you could break even or even make a little bit of money. But it would certainly do wonders for the brand of the production company that was funding it and releasing it. So I remember PVR released it in those days. So I didn't derive any stylistic or any kind of writing cues or directorial cues from them. Just like I've not derived any stylistic or writing or directorial cues. I didn't write Purna, but other cues when I was directing Purna. I had been watching films, Jitendra, from the time that, like everybody, 3 or 4 years old, but I'd been watching really solid cinema by all the great masters, whether it was Buñuel or Truffaut or Godard or Ghotok or Ray or Kurosawa. I had watched, I think through my college years, Indu won't like me saying this, but from 18, 19, 20, I never went to college. I watched, in those days, it was the VHS era. I watched over 100 films in about 1,000 days. I played rugby seriously from the age of 18 for the Bombay Gymkhana at the highest level domestically. There was no international Indian rugby team at the time. That happened 14 years later. So I played rugby. I watched films. I ran for college. I wrote for the college magazine. I took part in all the plays. I co-wrote a play which we produced ourselves and put out there. Um, Took part in Malhar and Kaleidoscope and all that stuff. And gave certificates for typhoid for 3 years. I had typhoid for 3 years across college, and I only studied out of 1,080 days. The last 33 days in our time, BCom was only judged on your final BCom university exam. So I studied 33 days for my BCom, and I ended up getting a first class. So really, it was time beautifully spent, uh, chasing girls, dating girls, spending lots of money in restaurants on flowers and coffee and ice cream, watching movies, playing rugby, going to hospital, getting myself stitched up and coming back. And those were my college years.
Excellent. And how did the creative direction part happen then? Was it immediately after college, or?
I was still enraptured by the idea of going to America, because I came from a school environment, I would say a Bombay environment, where everybody in a posh school went to America for their undergraduate. I came out as the most decorated boy in the history of Cathedral School at the time. I was a boxing captain. I was English elocution captain. I was one of two Renaissance men in the school, where for the first time in that school, or any school, I don't know whether it happens nowadays, dramatics, elocution, debates, extempore got me all the medals, and the same amount of medals I got for representing my school in 11 sports, and boxing, rugby, and all of that stuff, apart from the other 9 disciplines that I represented school in. And I was good at studies. So when I came out of school, I was absolutely sure I was headed to Harvard or Yale or MIT. And then I got rejected from all 18 schools. And many years later, when I delivered 5 talks at Harvard, I delivered a talk at MIT, I delivered a talk at Yale, I would always start my talks by saying that you guys rejected me and now you're forced to listen to me. But then I decided that I'll do my BCom in Bombay, grudgingly, and then I will do an MBA and become a banker or a consultant. So after my BCom, I had applied to go to do an MBA in America. And again, I got rejected by everyone. Do not ask me about fate, because I don't believe in it. Do not ask me about destiny, because I don't believe in it. But if you did, to have a guy being rejected 32 times, 18 times as an undergrad, 14 times as an MBA, till finally I got a provisional admission into the Dutch School of Business at Dartmouth. We're deferring you by 2 years, but you'll have to reapply, but we think that you'll be in the short list, kind of thing. I had 2 years to kill after Sydenham College. And so in those 2 years, I took a job in marketing, thinking I'll do my MBA in marketing. So in an automotive firm, where I was a marketing trainee for 2 years. And it's in those 2 years that I began to act professionally on the Bombay stage. So I would work from Monday to Friday, from 9 to 5. I would rehearse from 6 to 9 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I would play rugby from 6 to 9 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Saturdays, I would play rugby and rehearse. And then we would put up our shows on either a Saturday and a Sunday, or a Sunday we do 2 shows of the play. And Rahul Dukuna gave me my first break in a play called Topsy Turvy. So in those 2 years, I was on the Bombay stage, and I was playing very serious rugby by then. It's during those 2 years that I began to ask myself the fundamental question of what makes you happy. And I took out a pen and I opened a page on a notebook. I wish I had that notebook still. I remember the pen was a green and red pen with black ink. And I wrote, 1, if I had no money problems in my life, I would, 1, acting. And I put a cross next to it, because you would get $500 a show. So there's no chance of, I was only doing theater. 2, I said writing. And I put a cross next to it, because it takes you 20 years to become a great writer. In any case, what kind of money, how will you survive for those 20 years? My father was very certain, after your BCom, I'm not supporting you. And number 3, I wrote copywriting. What about writing for ads? And I knew I had a facility with words. I only needed to know if I had good ideas. So the automotive firm that I was training with, I took one of their vehicles and I wrote a campaign for that vehicle. Uh, rides like a bug, handle, handles like a buggy, rides like, handles like a sports car, rides like a buggy, looks like a dream, or something like that was the line. And I did a copy test with the 3 top agencies in Bombay, Trikaya Gray, Enterprise, and Rediffusion. And the first people to reply to my copy test was Rediffusion. They gave me a job. The second guys to reply were Trikaya Gray. They offered me a job at Options Trikaya. Chris Rosario offered me a job. And then Mohammed Khan hadn't yet gotten back to me from Enterprise. And I just took Rediffusion because they'd offered me the job first. And Trikaya Gray hadn't offered me a job in their mainstream agency. They'd offered me a job in Options Trikaya Gray. And I stayed with Rediffusion from 1989 to 1994. Stay with me because this is connecting very quickly to cinema. So through 89 to 93, I'm writing copy. I'm rising up in the ranks from a junior copywriter to whatever senior copywriter. And I'm acting on the Bombay stage nonstop. By now I've done 4 or 5 plays, and I do a play called Are There Tigers in the Congo? And the casting director for, at the time, India's second English language film, after In Which Annie Gives It Those Ones, which had released about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Now a film called English August is being made, and the casting director, Uma Dakuna, Rahul Dakuna's aunt, comes to watch Are There Tigers in the Congo, a 2-hander with Rajat Kapoor and myself, and Rajat Kapoor, the actor. And she thinks I'd be perfect for English August. She informs Dave Benegal. This is 1993. Dave Benegal puts me through a series of auditions and offers me the role of Agastya Sen in English August. This is 1993 early. I go to Arun Nanda and Ajit Balakrishnan at Rediffusion. They say to me that, how much time do you want off to shoot the film? I say 2 months. They're very kind. They say, it's fantastic. Cross-fertilization of creativity. I'll never forget, that's what they said. Go ahead and do your acting, come back in 2 months' time and pick up your job again. So I took 2 months off. In June 1993, 27 years to the day, I land in Visakhapatnam, I shoot the film, I come back. And English August takes 1.5 years in post-production. And in that 1.5 years, I rise to becoming creative director. And 2 things happen. One, I have, at the age of 26, 40 crores billing at the time to handle. And I have a team of 13, 14 people, all of whom are older than me or better than me or have been more years in advertising than me and are wondering why they should listen to me as creative director. But I'm the only guy who's been in Rediff for 4 years. None of them have been in Rediff for that long. So they grumblingly decide to listen to me. So I'm really under the cosh, working from 10 in the morning to midnight. I hardly play rugby. And for the first time since the age of 6, I don't act. I don't act for a year. And I devote myself to being a good creative director. And I'm very happy, but I'm also very unhappy not acting. The year gets over, English August is ready for release, and the film does very well. It runs for 3 weeks in Regal. Regal had a 900 plus capacity. It does 65, 70% occupancy, which is mind boggling. 3 shows a day in Regal and other places, Sterling, Creme de la Creme, whatever. And I decide, okay, now's the time when I have to decide whether I stay in advertising, because my career was really moving up the ranks. My next posting was going to be abroad, possibly in Australia, or do I become an actor? Now, how do you become an actor? You've just done a film. So I decide to take the risk. I go back to Arun Nanda and Ajit Balakrishnan, and I say, I'm going to try and become an actor, but in 3 months, if it doesn't work, I'm coming right back. They're like, don't worry, go ahead. You have our blessings. If it doesn't work, come back in 3 months. And so I quit Rediffusion and I wait. And I'm waiting, and I get A Mouthful of Sky, India's first and only English language daily soap opera, which gives me, at the time, 55,000 rupees a month, which is comparative to the salary I get as creative director. So it's wonderful. And I'm shooting 18 or 22 days a month for Mouthful of Sky. And that's a year's contract. And then of course, I get Bombay Boys and then Split Wide Open and Takshak and blah, blah, blah. So that is the trajectory as to how I moved from advertising to acting. I've never had to struggle. I've never had to worry about money. One thing happened and the other thing followed. All I did was chased my dreams while I was in advertising, kept my dreams as my hobbies, maybe in the hope that one day something would work out, and it did.
So, Rahul, I feel very good when I hear this because I'm glad you chased your dreams, because had you been just a BCom, I used to always say that, you know, when I became principal, you won't believe this, principal of HR college, 2000, the year 2000, I see the newspaper and it says wanted for a job of a porter, minimum qualification BCom. And I said, am I going to be producing porters in HR college? And that's when I moved to making all my students chartered accountants. But so true, what you said about your journey then, and I think these students are lucky today that they've been able to get this new age education that we are bringing in, because conventional education, even till today, was 19th century curriculum taught by the 20th century faculty to the 21st century students. And I used to rebel and say, when can we get, you know, new age education in? But, you know, students, here's a message for you. Wherever you are, you must dream and you must follow your dreams. But you must work. He did get the first class. Don't forget that, all right? Don't miss that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So now, going back to the process of your first film, you have the script ready, and you've decided that you make a film. You've probably contacted the producers, and they've been kind enough to say approve the project or take it on board. How does that start turning into a film? How do you get hold of your actors? How do you? I mean, you've been in the theater circuit, so probably you had your network, and you probably knew some people. So you cast a net, and you get actors. How did Rehan Engineer, I think if I remember the name right, and Koel Puri, how do they get cast? And they're working with an ensemble cast of Pooja Bhatt, Anahita Oberoi, Bamban Irani, extremely talented ensemble cast. How did this all come about?
Well, most of them were my friends, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Pooja was a friend. Rehan I had seen on stage and really liked his presence. I auditioned a lot of people to play Zen, but Rehan had the right monastic and gentle quality that I wanted. Deeply compassionate on the outside, but but there's something very private about him on the inside. I like that very much. He also has a beautiful face. Anahita, of course, I had done plays with. I directed Seascape with Sharks and Dancer, the play that I had done with her, a two-hander, 2 or 3 years prior to that. So Anna was cast. Pooja was a friend, and I've just done something else with her recently. My God, 20 years later, and we've both been laughing about how it's taken 20 years to work again together. I think she's a wonderful, magnificent actress, and she was great. She was great, and everybody says I'm fine. Baman, I also knew from the theater, and he thought it was pretty much of a nothing role, but it isn't. If you see the film, it really isn't a nothing role that he does, because he brings so much gravitas to that role. So basically, I cast my net far and wide amongst theater actors and a few the casting people looking around for actors who we could cast outside. Koel was my girlfriend at the time, and we had been seeing each other for about 3.5 years prior to that. So I'd always thought of her when I was writing this role. So she was cast as I was writing it. I wrote half the film in a house in Delhi, in fact. So I wrote the script in 33 days, and I got in about 40 days I got the money, which is really unusual. People spend years trying to get money. So I start casting through my executive producers, Thomas Cherian. We start casting, and people are coming in and out of the office in Mahalakshmi, where Crossroad used to be, that building. And as we are casting, I'm looking at Aradhana Seth to do the production design, because I've seen Aradhana's work. I've loved her work. I think by then she's done Fire, she's done other stuff, and I really think she's amazing. So I want to work with Aradhana. Of course, it was extraordinary getting Zakir Hussain to do the music for Everybody Says I'm Fine.
Yes.
My God, he did it for free. Zakir did Everybody
What?
Says I'm Fine for free.
Wow.
He worked for months on that for free. And with him, Ustad Sultan Khan Saab walking into the studio, playing the sarangi for hours. You know, Ronu Mazumdar walking in, playing the flute for hours. Salim Merchant as a newbie with a beard and shaggy hair and sleepy eyes coming in and banging out beautiful, beautiful themes for Pooja's, especially for Pooja's story. Tawfiq doing all the work. I mean, getting everybody together, coordinating all of that and playing percussion magically. I mean, how many people walked in? Oh boy, Karanesh and Ganesh, they were the guys who were playing the violins. I mean, they were playing the string instruments. Zakir brought, you know, the whole of the Hindustani classical pantheon in front of me. It was staggering. We were at 4D and we were making the music. And so Vikas Sivaraman, who was a wonderful ad film photographer, I was very clear that I wanted this film to have an otherworldly perfection in terms of its lensing, in terms of its photography. I wanted the people in the salon to look like chocolates in silver foil wrapping inside an air-conditioned glass box, which you see in a pastry shop. That was my brief to him. I said, I want them to look gleaming and glowing and perfect because the worms are inside the pastry. They're not outside the pastry. So I wanted them to be perfect, lemon tart, meringue, chocolate ganache, truffle, you know, and some of them covered in silver foil in gleaming purple, silver, red, like a box of Roundtree chocolates. So that was very clear. Aradhana was also told that everything has to be gleaming and shining, and blue and orange were the colors that I wanted it to be in. The apostrophe, Everybody Says I'm Fine, the apostrophe became the signature mark for the capes and all of that. Everything was without any money spared on production design. Rasool did the sound. Rasool was the disciple of Jogi. Jogi had done Vikram Joglekar had done the song for English August. Of course, now he's become the guru to so many other generations of sound recordists and sound engineers and designers. Rasool was his disciple. Rasool did the sound for Everybody Says I'm Fine. I had worked with Rasool and Jogi on English August and Split Wide Open. So we had a great bunch of technicians. We had to, because it was a first-time director. So there was Rasool on sound. There was Aradhana Seth on production design. There was Anaita Adajania. At the time, she was Anaita Shroff doing the costumes. I mean, Anaita then became, you know, the chief for this thing of Vogue. She's done so many of massive Bollywood films. So Anaita did the costumes, and they were, each of them, we looked at the material so that sound doesn't have a problem. We looked at surfaces in the salon so that sound doesn't bounce off. We had 6 to 8 inches of sawdust packing shiny surfaces in the salon. Otherwise, you'd have sound bouncing all over and Rasool would go mad acoustically. So he packed the back of the walls. It was ridiculous, the lengths we went to, because it was a sync sound film. And I had been born into sync sound films with English August, and I was completely convinced I wanted this to be a sync sound film. And so all of that was, technically, we didn't compromise on our technicians. Vikas Sivaraman, Rasool Pukati, Vikram Joglekar, Rasool Pukati, we had Aradhana Seth, we had Anaita Shroff, Anaita Adjania. We had the best, just the best crew. Great actors, and now all that was left was to actually direct it. So what we did was, this was a very simple film to workshop. So we workshopped every single scene of the film, taping down the measurements of the salon and where things would be, so that people knew the areas they could go to and the areas they couldn't go to. And we filmed all the various scenes that were happening in the salon and upstairs in Zen's room.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is something that I think all the boys and girls, young men and women who are listening should listen to. I'm not the first person to say it, but it bears repeating. As a director, leadership is the easiest thing. Leading a rugby team, leading an NGO is far more complex than leading a film team. Because a film team is only groomed to do exactly as the director wants. So you wake up in the morning scratching your head and saying, I want a pink jumbo jet with purple engines, a giraffe hanging from one wheel and a peacock flying from the other wheel. And on the tail, I want Freddie Mercury playing We Will Rock You, and it happens. Boom. As long as you have the budget, it's all there. So if you don't see it, it will never happen. Because nobody else can see what you want from that scene except you. So, as an example, this example I've given before. Let us say the cinematographer comes to me and says, how do you see this lovemaking scene? And this is not in everybody says I'm fine, but I'm giving you an example. And I say, all I have to say, forget the lens, forget the lighting, forget anything. I have to say something like, I see this lovemaking scene like two Japanese samurai fighting at dawn. And the DOP will say,
All right.
Japanese samurai fighting at dawn. So I see a lot of mist. So I'm like, okay, mist is good. He says, I see long shadows. So long shadows is good. They're in a bedroom? I say, yes. He says, can we have it overlooking nothing, the cliff or something? So there's no city. So I can have mist coming up the countryside. I'm like, yes, you can. Okay. I will light from here in the bedroom and I will throw the shadows into the mist at the back. Done. The sound recorder says Japanese samurai. So I hear only the tinkling of wind chimes occasionally while they make love and the whistling of the wind. Pling, plong, plong. And the costume designer says, well, obviously they're naked, but what's lying on the floor? I see her robe like a drop of blood, a red satin robe that's fallen to the floor like a huge drop of blood. And his black satin robe like a jagged slash of a dagger lying on the floor. And the production guy said, what color is the floor? What's this room like? Japanese samurai at dawn, very elemental. We'll have a futon, almost on floor level. We'll have polished wood floors, not too dark because the drop of blood and the jagged slash of black satin has to show. So we'll have blonde wood. We'll have light wood on the floor, but the bed can be darker wood. And we'll have cream silk sheets, mussed up, cream pillows. So the walls will be white and just very, very, maybe white bamboo. And the back through which the light is coming will be glass because that's what the DOP wants, just sheets of clear glass. So you have a light, almost yellow wooden floor. You have a drop of blood off the bed on one side. You have a slash of black jagged satin on the other side. You have cream matte low over a dark brown bed platform. You have a wind chime in a corner. And then the production guy says, I'll have a long glass vase with one red tulip hanging, like echoing that blood from there. You have two people silhouetted against this with throwing massive shadows and the mist coming up from the back. Can everybody see it?
Yes. Completely.
Can you hear it?
Yes. Yes,
so
absolutely.
All I said was, I see this lovemaking scene like two Japanese samurai at dawn. And if you have a talented bunch of crew around you, that's what you'll get.
They will be interpreting. Wow, that's amazing. So the director has to just give the vision and it can be done if the vision is clear.
So in Everybody Says I'm Fine, the lovemaking sequence, the censors asked me to cut it. But there's no nudity in the film.
Yes.
We only had eyes,
right.
eyes and hands and mouth when they orgasm. Just that. That's it. There is no flesh in that scene. They said, cut the scene. I said, what do I cut? They said, it's too sexy. I said, what do I cut? So they timed it to be 103 seconds. And they said, now just cut 30%. So I had to satisfy them by cutting 31 seconds or 33 seconds from the film, from that lovemaking sequence. I said, what do I cut? What is it that's nude? What is it that's obscene? What is it that's lascivious? What is it that is pornographic? They said, no, it's just too erotic. That's what I mean, that in lovemaking and violence, it is best left to the audience's imagination, in my opinion.
This is amazing. This example was truly amazing, because I think this is a question that keeps coming into a classroom very regularly. It's like, how does one really direct? What does a director really do? So we kind of obviously break it down. A director goes on the set and directs everyone. They block the stage. They work with the actors. They make sure that the vision's very clear. But we've never had a demonstration of actual vision, which is what you've done. So thank you so much for that. I think all the students must be very, very grateful right now.
But all of the work, Jitendra, all of the work of the actors is done way before.
Way before.
Oh, yeah. The method I follow is the biography method, which is I take every actor through the biography of the character from the age of 0 to the moment they step into the film. So Rehan knew where he was born, which school he went to, what kind of kid he was in school, when did he start listening to music, what were his parents like, when did his music taste change, did he have any friends, what were his friends like, what is his sexual orientation, if it is heterosexual, if it is LGBTQIA, whatever it might be, what was the atmosphere at home when you came back from school, what were the growing up years like, where did you go to college, what did you study, and all of it is done collaboratively with the actor, so that you actually come to places where, even today as an actor, when directors tell me, I want you to run across the road, I'm like, but this character will never run across the road. They're like, how do you know? I said, because I've done the whole backstory with you, and you said this is how the character moves. This character will never run across the road. This character will think twice before crossing the road. So, yeah, that's true. So what do? I have to have him run across the road. So then we say, okay, maybe somebody grabs this character and takes him across the road. That'll work. Because I need to be fast. So you start putting in so many things. When you know the entire biography of the character, let me say, till the moment the film starts. After that, it is all the work has been done. After that, it's imagination and magic and emotions. And you're bringing that character, and you will be absolutely true to the moment if you have imbibed, swallowed, and breathed that character, so that now we don't have to see the character. We can just get a whiff of the character through your breath. We can smell the character, and we know it's absolutely correct. There's nothing that is wrong with the character at all. When you don't do that work, then you invent on the spur of the moment. And so I keep saying, I can never act, and I can never work with actors. I can only work with people who are so beautifully prepared that they can be on set.
True. We had a guest who said earlier that directing can be very, very violent. When you say action, that's a very violent. You're like telling them to cut off every thought that they have. It's like, come in the mode and act. And so they choose to say walk in, as if like just let your being into the stage, into this arena, and just be yourself. You're the character now. You don't have to act, because that then you're cutting off the whole mental process and saying, now get into this person. So yeah, agreed. I mean, there's a very Zen-like sort of quality to this process, as you said, and so it's also sort of a very extended sort of workshopping that you have to do. How long does it take? 15 days, 20 days, 1 month? Just roughly.
As long as it takes for the actor to believe that they are the finest in the world.
Actor too. All right.
When I cast an actor, the first thing I say is, you are pure magic. Now, if you screw up in the movie, it's my fault, because you are pure magic. All an actor wants to hear, no matter how senior, junior, how Western, Eastern you are, what language you're working in, all the actor wants to hear is that they are magical, and they've already done a brilliant job just by getting into the movie. Because all an actor wants is security. Once an actor knows that they can do no wrong, then my God, they will walk upside down on razor blades for you while hanging from the Leaning Tower of Pisa. There's nothing an actor will not do if you trust and believe in the actor. So don't cast people who can't do it. I can't cast people who can't act or who can't pull off the role. Our initial audition for Purna, the girl to play Purna was over 400 girls, almost 500 girls. There's just no way that I have the magic in my fingers to make that girl do what she did on the summit. The way she acted on the summit, or the way she acts when when she's missing home or something like that. You can write it as well as you can, but you can't make people act. They have to have it inside them. So to make act, and I have been with so many directors who don't understand that all you want is for them to say, "You're great." Doesn't matter if it's a lie. Just say, "You're great." Because that's the best chance you'll have for them to do brilliantly. On Purna, there was an actor who froze. He was wonderful in the workshop. And to answer your question, workshops can be anything between 15 days to 30 days. He was wonderful in the workshop. On set, he just froze. So I said, okay. He said, you're also in the scene. So I'm intimidated because I'm acting with you and you're directing me. So when you're looking at me, I'm thinking of you. Are you directing me while you're acting? I said, listen, I took him aside. I said, listen, here's my guess about you as a person. Here's my guess about what you're feeling right now, because I've done 25 films up till now at the time. And I said, are you feeling that if you don't get it right, people are going to lose confidence in you? He said, yes. I said, are you feeling that if you do it one way and I ask you to do it another way, you won't be able to? He said, yes. He said, are you sometimes feeling that you're not in the scene while you're supposed to be in the scene because Rahul has given you such great direction? He said, yes. I said, welcome to the gang. We are all imposters. We fake it sometimes. We get it right sometimes. Don't worry. You don't worry. You just focus on what is it that you think you have to be in this scene. He said, I have to be decisive. I said, just be decisive. If that's the one word that you're going to follow, you be decisive. No matter what I throw at you as an actor, you just be decisive. You know what you believe in. You know what you don't believe in. You be decisive. Hang the character. Let the character go. You as yourself, as Jitendra, be decisive. And I'll handle it if you're not in character. You leave that to me. He said, fine. Automatically, he felt so much at ease. Automatically. And he was already in character. He just didn't have the confidence. So he went in there and whatever he was decisive. And till today, he says to me, he says, I've never had somebody directing me like that. I'm not saying, look, guys, there's going to be a lot of self-praise in this talk because you just can't avoid it. But the truth is, I'm giving you this example because of an actor saying, I felt so good and so safe with you after that. So you should not direct movies if you cannot make your actors feel terrifically safe. And if you cannot make everybody who's outside of acting feel terrifically challenged. You got to put them under the cosh because you can make the second best person be the best. It's all up to you to do that, in the world with inspiration, with personal example, all of that. But you cannot do that to your actors. Your actors are different. They are special. They are wrapped in cotton wool. Whatever they want I don't care what the budget is. It'll come from my money. If they want a burger from the Taj or they want a massage, not that we're encouraging that. But whatever they want, they have to have because they are the golden ones. They are the ones who are going to make this film everything that it is. And I mean, I say that openly with the crew. We don't have a film if you don't have actors.
Very true. Very true. And since you've also been an actor, probably you're extra sensitive to an actor's requirement. Yeah?
Because I've been treated badly in the past.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to ask you, although we're not referring to your acting career.
Please go ahead, Jitendra. It doesn't matter.
I wanted to talk to you as the Dil Dhadakne Do, and I felt that was a fabulous performance, although a bit underrated, but fabulous performance because I hated you really in that role. Sorry, but yeah, I mean. How did that come about and what was that experience like? What did you, because it was a big budget film and so actor herself, I've heard, looks after the actors really well. How was that experience? Did it?
Zoya's Zoya's roots
So,
are in the kind of cinema I'm talking about, you know.
yeah.
She assisted on Bombay Boys. She worked with Meera Nair for years. You know, Zoya's as authentic as they come. And I have
Yes.
a terrific friendship and a terrific respect for her. So, yes, we discussed the character. We did a biography of Manav. Uh, Manav was easy to do a biography of because he's like so many South Bombay boys. Zoya and I were pretty
Oh,
much on the same page. Um, you know, Zoya and I have met lots of men like this. But I must say right now to you that I have been actually directed in a scene where my instincts have been not wrong, but different from how the director wants me to play the scene 2 or 3 times in my career. One of them was on Dil Dhadakne Do. Let me tell you the story. Aparna Sen, Japanese wife, Zoya Akhtar, Dil Dhadakne Do. You know the
yes.
scene where Manav says, and look at me, I let my wife work. I allow her to work. I mean, you know,
Hmm.
it's an equal world. It's a world where women should be allowed to express themselves. And Farhan says, excuse me, allow? By that very word that you're using means that you're exercising power over women. Who the hell are you to exercise power? It's a wonderful scene. And I cringed every time I played it, but you know, it was a very important scene. But I was playing it as, I mean, look at me, you know, I allow my wife to work. I mean, I'm so great. I'm amazing. She's like, no, you're playing it like a villain. I wanted to play it real. Like,
Hmm.
it's like me talking to you about the
And
acting work,
yeah.
direction. Like very earnest, very real. Like, you know, Jitendra, I mean, it's such a terrible world out there. Women are not respected. I mean, I allow my wife to work. She must
Yeah.
work. She must earn
That
money.
hits harder. That hits
Yeah.
harder. Like
And I
how
couldn't get it.
ingrained is
So,
it? Yeah.
so I told Zoe, I said, Zoe, give me some time. I need to go away and just recalibrate how I have thought of this scene and come back. And I did. And I came back and I played it that way. So that is great direction. Aparna Sen, Japanese wife, there's a phone call towards the end of the film where I say to my wife in Japan, I can hear you clearly. Today the line is clear. And I was playing it like in the Shambly, Chaplin-esque, you know, not so male kind of guy he was for the whole film.
Hmm.
And for this scene, she said, play it
Hmm.
like a male. Play it like a man who has sex appeal. Play it like a man who is appealing to his wife. I'm like, what planet are you on? Surely not. He's not that person. She says, play it that way. And I played it that way. And when I played it that way, I knew she was wrong. But I said, my kartavya is to do what the director asks me to. And when he or she knows that it's absurd, they will come back to what I thought. And when I did it, it was right. So, you know, 2 out of 10 times in your life, your instincts will be wrong. And thank God for that, because that's what makes you grow.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's such an
I
amazing
must tell you, working
gem
with
of
Priyanka
information.
in Dil Dhadakne Do, what a marvelous co-actor to work with.
Yeah.
Jitendra, she knew every beat of the film, the whole script.
Yeah.
She knew everything. But Zoya, yahan pe to, aren't we supposed to exchange that look? And Zoya, yeah, of course. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, so she knew every beat of the film. She was so, apart
Hmm.
from being stupendously hardworking, I've rarely seen a harder working actor, but being so intuitively talented to understand the beat of her character so beautifully. And we had this one conversation while we were waiting for, you know, the shot to go off to start, you know, in a coffee scene, which was finally cut from the film. And she was saying some very lovely things about me. And I said to her, I said, you're magic. I mean, it's magical to work with you. She was saying, with you, I don't have to act. I only have to react because you are so manav, you know, once the camera switches on.
Hmm.
And I was like, you know, Priyanka, I must tell you that I feel amazing working with you. So the surprises were galore on Dil Dhadakne Do. Everybody was a skilled actor, but my
Right.
God, how hard they work. Anil Kapoor, Mr. K, I call him,
You
you
know,
know,
your
Farhan,
performances. Yeah.
all of them. They worked so hard to get it right. Ranveer, of course, Anushka is
Yeah.
supremely talented. I just saw her in Filori the other day, and what a performance in Filori. So, you know, it was a great cast. And I think this idea of doing an art film with starving actors means that the actors have to be are better than the ones in commercial film. Nonsense. Acting is talent is talent.
Absolutely. Okay.
Sorry, we digress.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, no, but your performance was so convincing, and the chemistry between you and Priyanka's character, that I felt that you would be scorning at each other even after the director had said cut. You're like, you're enemies. I mean, you have this hassle going on, sort of off the seat as well. But there's something that I can't miss talking about. I'm sorry, I'm digressing this time. Is Mr. and Mrs. Iyer. We have to mention that film. For me, I think that's been a great film. It's been a favorite. I've watched it like multiple times. And there are moments when my heart skips a beat. There are moments when I feel teary. There are moments. And I think in that, you cannot say who's better. I mean, there's such an equal performance, yours and Konkana's. And I think if Konkana's sort of a little more vocal in some parts, you kind of balance it very well. And but I think you're mostly sort of the more quiet one in the film, I guess. I remember it right. And I think, but you kind of handle it, the balance is perfect. I don't know what else to say. The balance is perfect. And what kind of workshopping did you have to do to get into that zone with each other, where you were comfortable with each other's nuances?
Well, I think Coco's performance, because she's playing a Tamilian, is so clearly so skilled, whereas Rahul is playing almost himself. He talks like this, we've heard him talk like this kind of thing. So I think in that respect, initially Coco had to do a lot more work to come across convincingly as a Tam Bram.
Yes.
And a mother, which again, I wasn't playing a father or anything like that. Quite close to, who you could imagine me to be off screen. But the workshops we did were all the scenes, everything. We did all the scenes together. Aparna is a stupendous director of actors. So this balance is all about the direction. It's the writing, the direction, and the editing. All three of which Aparna was, very, 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 instrumental in doing all of that, obviously. So the bond that Coco and I shared as actors was, as people, was terrific. Her sense of humor, I get it. Her talent, my God, how can you not be dazzled by it? How can you not act well opposite someone like that? The tone of the film, the social and political preoccupations of that film. And yet when people say, Rahul, you are so much like Raja Sen, I'm like, no. If hoodlums had walked into a bus and pulled out two people and shot them because of their religion, I wouldn't have sat still. I would have fought, gotten out and been shot. Rahul would have never sat quiet in that bus. Not a chance. But Raja does. And he's a coward. He's not the perfect guy who women want to take home and show, because marriage proposals and all after that about what a great guy. I'd love to marry Raja Sen. Therefore, I want to marry Rahul Bose. I'm like, excuse me, we're very different people. We are very different people. We handle stuff differently. So it wasn't that he was playing himself. It's a great compliment when people say you're playing yourself when you're not playing yourself, which means that you breathe the character. But, in the Japanese life, if people say, yeah, it's like you, I'm like, no, it's not me. This is not me. So if you can convince people that, he must be like this in real life, then you've done a pretty damn decent job. So in that film, it was magic.
Yeah.
Aparna, Coco, and myself was just magic.
Yeah, it was magic. Definitely. Now coming back to Purna, the film that you directed after 15, 16 years, actually more, 15 years of directing your first film. And I've read somewhere that it came to you by chance. You were being cast as an actor for the role of the coach. For the role of the secretary.
Mentor.
And the mentor. And then, but you kind of chose to produce as well as direct the film.
No, I chose to produce it. And over time, it so happened that through a series of circumstances, I ended up directing the film.
Okay. But ended up directing meaning what? Like how does one, like what happened?
Well, there were a series of circumstances that I don't want to go into, but I definitely want to produce it. Yes.
Okay.
And then by that time, by the time circumstances unfolded the way they did, I knew that I could direct this quite easily. It was not going to be difficult for me to direct it.
And one thing I couldn't help notice, I mean, I could notice about Pune as well as Everybody Says I'm Fine, is your keen sense of music. So you talked about music of Everybody Says I'm Fine and how you're blessed to have these sort of maestros come in and produce music for you. Also sounded it. But in Purna, I think you've taken the most commercial people. You've taken a Vishal Dadlani, you've taken an Arijit Singh, you've taken a Salim, Salim or Suleiman, I'm forgetting who, one of those. And yet you've created a tracks, which for a moment I had to stop it. Like, that doesn't sound like Arijit Singh. I was confused for a moment. Is that Arijit? Because we haven't heard him like that. You kind of got them to act as well. You've got to play their voices in a manner that doesn't seem like the usual commercial singers that we've worked with. I couldn't recognize Vishal Dadlani. I still have to play that sound a couple of times and say, oh, that's Vishal. Maybe. How did that come about?
Puri Kainat had Raj Pandit, who had never sung a song before, alone. Salim and Suleiman did the music for the film, so I owe them many, many, many lifetimes of salams and duas and thanks. But Raj Pandit, who works with them and now, of course, is a wonderful, wonderful singer in his own right. I think his first solo song was Puri Kainat on Purna, and he sang it as a scratch. And we were wondering who should sing the song. And I told Salim, I said, Salim, I think Raj should sing the song. He's got that divinity in his voice. Arijit for Babul Mora and for Kuch Parbat Hilai, especially Babul Mora. I mean,
Babul Mora
has seen my films. He's seen my films. He loves the work I do. He has some respect and regard for me as an actor and as a creative person. So he was very gracious, and he even came for the music launch, which he never does normally. Zakir Bhai, of course, was there for the launch as a well-wisher to launch the music. Then we had Babul Mora, Puri Kainat, Kuch Parbat Hilai. Is that it? And a few themes, a few instrumental pieces. But Vishal, of course, was on Puri Kainat also. And the music is not from Andhra or now Telangana. No. It's not that. But there are, and of course, Tanuj Tikku, who scored the film with a very light, beautiful hand, did it so beautifully. Such a lovely job. And then the Everest path, which are, big and rah. It goes from the village all the way up to Everest. So Tanuj's work is no less in scoring the film. What can I say? There are 10 minutes of the film where you only hear breathing. As she starts at night on her 9-hour ascent to Everest, all you hear for 10 minutes is breathing.
Yeah.
And the breathing is the breathing acting.
Yes.
So I actually recorded every single breath. I breathed every single breath of the girl breathing till the music starts. And I told her to do it like I had done. Wow. She's a kid. So every single, the breathing acting, you see the acting that she's done as in breathing is so, I still remember, how we got that, that straining breath and stuff. I still remember how we did it in the studio. And I did for hours before I got Aditi in. So when I went to Hyderabad and got her to do it, she had a complete guide track and she spent half a day just breathing. So it was that crazy.
I had no idea that there was that amount of preparation that went in. I had no idea. I thought you just somehow got this little girl trained under your wings.
Oh my God. We had an Everest summiteer, Shekhar Babu, who trained all the kids who were the mountaineers. He trained Purna. We had the real Purna training Aditi. We were, it was full on. We were there for 2 or 3 months before we shot the film. I knew everything like the back of my hand, such that on the first day of shooting, no director finishes the quota of shots.
No.
On the first day of shooting, we had a 7 to 7. We started at 7 a.m. At 5 p.m. I was done. So the executive producer comes running onto set and, what are you doing? I said, we finished. He said, are you crazy? There are 2 hours left. Take shots. So we would just take random shots of birds flying and sunset and stuff like that so that the shift would get over fruitfully. Otherwise, this was, as a director, I am hyper methodically planned. Everything is is just planned to the nth degree so that my mind is clear for magic to happen on the set with the actors. That's it. Every other thing is completely looked after.
Can I ask, I have a contrary thought, and pardon me for asking that. It's like when you plan so much, slightest of disturbance to your planning can disrupt your entire um, sort of mental makeup. It happens with me
So
a lot.
I'm going to give you a real life incident.
Yeah.
I had planned every single mountainside in Sikkim near the border to shoot the various gradations of the Everest sequence.
Yes, yes.
Every single. यहाँ पे वो सीन होगा, वहाँ पे वो सीन होगा, यहाँ पे ये क्लाइम होगा, यहाँ पे ये वॉल का क्लाइम होगा, वहाँ पे ये लैडर क्रॉसिंग होगा, फलाना ढिमका. I came back to Sikkim and the entire topography had changed because it had not snowed. I postponed the shooting. I came back to Sikkim. It had snowed too much and we could not get to those places, period. Look up the internet, boys and girls, young men and women, and look for Purna behind the scenes. There is one piece, hopefully still on the internet, where there's black ice. There's ice forming on the road at night, so you can't travel in the daytime. And everybody on the walkies is saying, "Wapis base ko jao, wapis base ko jao." And I'm standing there as the producer of the film, not the director of the film. I'm thinking, I'm screwed. I can't afford to come back here a third time. And my budget won't allow it. And I'm looking around at what I have in front of me, mountains, which I've never looked at before for the film. I'm standing there and I'm saying, hang on a second, don't ask the guys to go. We'll shoot 32A here, 69 here, 70, 71, 72 there, and 75, 76, 77 there. Boom. That's it. And I began to climb. That's it. At that moment, I began to climb. And everybody's just watching me. And I'm climbing. I'm climbing up this mountain. I climb for an hour. And they become very small as I look down on them. And I've done about maybe 800 feet. And they look up at me, I look down at them. They look up at me, I look down at them. They look up at me, I look down at them. Finally, they realize this guy's mad. He's completely mad. And the whole crew starts to come up. And I devise the last 15 minutes of the film there and then. No, you don't plan to become a rigid, stubborn human being. You plan so that if anything goes wrong, you know what you want and you can always change that because you have seen the lovemaking sequence at dawn of two Japanese samurai. And now if that two Japanese samurai have to now fight at midnight, but they have to fight in a building overlooking in Warsaw, how will you do it?
Right.
That's what planning is.
This is a very important point. I guess a lot of us tend to plan and then get to sort of when things don't go as the plans, we get affected by it. But I think being flexible is equally important, is what you're trying to say.
Because you can see it, Jitendra.
You know it, because you can see
okay, fine. Yeah, because I can see this, I can adapt it to this.
Yes.
यहाँ पे इमली का पेड़ था, वहाँ पे आम का पेड़ है, ठीक है, आम का पेड़ है तो इसमें शैडोज ऐसे होंगे, ठीक है, तो कैरेक्टर्स यहाँ पे नहीं बैठेंगे, यहाँ पे बैठेंगे, whatever. But you have that original thing in your mind, you know.
So as close as you can bring it to the original idea. Excellent. So Purna, sort of the whole directorial style is very understated, contrary to your first one where you paid attention to the kind of ambience that you were creating, and this was all on location, mostly on location, with say you also have villagers working with you in the cast. So this is completely different, and I like the fact that this is very, very restrained. It's very simplistic. Do not overcomplicate the matters. It just goes on, and that's where I find that it was very clean. I mean, I'm not saying that as a comparison, but I felt the same vibe that I would feel in Clint Eastwood's directorial films, where it's a very complex subject, but yet the way of handling it is very, very smooth, very, very mellow, and it never goes over the top, and therefore it looks real. It may be understated, but it definitely impacts you and affects you, and that's that's what I liked about Purna, that I was watching it and I had this giggle, this sense of victory, but also a sense of loss. I don't know what, but I was also sort of, it was melancholy kind of sense of victory. And I found that combination wonderful, that whole combination of feeling sad, but also victorious at the same time. I think if a film does that, if a film kind of puts you in a state where you're not even sure about your emotions, I think that's far more success than a comedy film. You laugh and a sorrowful film making you sad. And I found that was very, very rare about film, which is why I loved it. I watched it on Amazon, and not in the best sort of situation. I watched it over my laptop, but still, it kind of engaged me. It impacted me, and I was like, this is a masterpiece in its own sense, because of the underplay of everything. Very strange, and I love that. I love that about other directors as well, about way after certain scenes, and you, and of course Clint Eastwood, that I kind of kept mentioning to you earlier also. How did that restraint come about? Is it the script that got you to restrain it? Is it that you've also grown with sort of over the years that you work with different directors and restraint was come in your persona?
So I think life, 18 years of life, 19 years of life, makes you so much more. First of all, the choice of subject. I mean, because I've seen so much of rural India, because I've been to a tsunami-ravaged island in the Andamans and sat with the tribal captain breaking down in tears because he lost everybody on his island except 12 people. Because I have been to the outer reaches of villages in Manipur where just forget about bread and butter possible, jam impossible. When I've seen a boy shivering with a piece of shrapnel stuck in his brain, bomb blast, and he shivered in pain, and the doctors can't remove it because he'll die, and he dies that night, shivering in pain. A 7-year-old boy, his uncle holding his hand, and they couldn't even give him a painkiller because it would upset the thing in his brain. Because I have, been to I've been to a tribal village in central India where the water they offered me was brown, and the nearest dispensary is 20 kilometers away, and the nearest school 30 kilometers away, and children walking around with sores and wounds because they can't cure themselves. There's no medicine. There's no electricity. No electricity since 1947. 6 o'clock, the time you're at right now, boom. No money to even buy oil for a diya. Because I've seen stuff, and I went with 60 solar lamps, and I can't even tell you, it was one of the most moving experiences of my life, because I realized that the bottom 10% of this country, as we have seen time and time again, just are invisible. They're just invisible. Because of all of that, Jitendra, I have changed as a human being. I can still make everybody say I'm fine, but I won't make the same film. Also, my anxieties to impress have become, I don't need to impress I don't want to impress anybody. I would much rather not show you the food I'm eating and take a bite. I would much rather eat it and breathe the aroma of that freshly cooked Bengan ka bharta, and that's what Purna does. You are never ever aware of a director in the film. Only in one shot you are aware of the director in the film, which is when she puts her hand on the summit and everybody in the village jumps up and everybody in the school jumps up and there's no sound. And people in the cinema are saying, hey, sound. But I knew that any sound that I would put in would be nothing compared to the sound that the audience would imagine of people cheering for her. And so I kept it. That's the only time you could say it's a directorial decision, that you're aware there's a director in this film, because it's something so unexpected. But otherwise, the rest of the film just flows like a gentle stream, and it envelops you.
Yes.
And if it does, I hope it does, because
No, it did. It did.
I had people from the Directors Association of India calling me from the cinema hall and saying it's one of the finest films they've seen. I'm like, really? As a director? They said, we know. So then they gave me an award a week later, and it was wonderful. But for me, it is, I don't care. I don't care for if I get an award, or as long as people walk away from it saying nothing wrong. I didn't say anything wrong. because they will see something wrong.
No.
They might not see something right or something brilliant. They will always see something wrong.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that your direction goes unnoticed, which is the greatest compliment of all.
Yes. No, the gentleness of the film is what was remarkable. Is that it's a very gently told story.
It's a very challenging
Even
film to
though
make, actually. It's a very
Absolutely.
challenging film to
Yeah.
make.
Yeah.
Location-wise,
Yeah.
working with
Yeah.
kids,
Mm.
working with the use of language, which Amitabh Ghosh loved. He said, it's like a chonk. The Telugu is like a chonk in the film. And even if you don't understand it, you understand the film. But you still realize that
Yeah.
vernacular, that you're in the presence of the vernacular. You're in the presence of a specific,
Yes.
culturally specific region without making it, "Arey, ye kya hai
Yes.
yaar, ye Telugu film banaya isne." No, you don't feel that. And yet, to strike that balance, I had to, we made 3 choices in the dubbing. In my character, how much Telugu, how much Hindi. What accent Telugu, what accent Hindi. I dubbed my entire role 3 times, and we chose one option finally.
Luckily, you were the producer as well. Sorry.
Yeah, but I had a great co-producer in Amit Patni and his company Ray Media. Amit was wonderful on the film. I mean, he led with his heart. His daughter saw the film. His wife saw the film. They loved the film, and once they loved the film, and Amit loved the film, he didn't care. He said,
Yeah.
this film has its heart in the right place, and you've made it with all your heart and soul. And for the budget, people thought it was at least 1.5 times the budget of the actual budget that we had for the film.
This has been a phenomenal conversation, Rahul. Thank you for being so candid. I'm not ending it, but I think at this point I'd like the room to be open to the audience. If they have any questions, put it on chat.
Yes.
You can,
So I think
write it to Imran.
so the audience knows the drill. Whoever
Yes.
is new to the series, you put your questions in chat. I will unmute you to ask the question yourself. You'll have to put your video on, and then maybe we can put you live in front of Rahul to ask your questions. Rahul, it has been amazing. We've had Jitendra and me have done close to about 15 webinars since the time we've logged ourselves into each respective house. But this has been by far the most interesting so far. But this is I think Jitendra, we're just fortunate and lucky to have Rahul
We're
today.
very fortunate.
And Rahul, we do this every Friday evening at 4:00. So it's like a weekly thing that we do. Friday evenings 4:00. This has been a Wednesday. We have seen the highest turnout till now. This has been like a full house, and I think the conversation has really been quite engaging.
It's been very deep, actually, even for me. It's been very deep.
Rahul, there was one word that you said so frequently when we were discussing Dil Dhadakne Do about the beat. When you say beat, and when it comes from Rahul Bose, you cannot miss the Jhankaar beat. We haven't heard anything about Jhankaar beat. We have to, because that is something which is very close to each one of our hearts, not just because of because of the subject of the film. All of us, yeah, all of us.
Film,
We've sung songs, we've seen the film, we've danced to the songs, and we've loved the film. We cannot let you go without discussing that.
Sure. So Shujoy is Jhankaar Beats. Shujoy is my character, basically. Shujoy is a madcap. He is less sharp than Rishi. He's a gentle, funny. Jhankaar Beats is his soul. Chaotic. Not anymore, of course. I mean, he's such a fine director. But wonderful man. And like a first-time filmmaker, he was true to exactly what he knew, what he wanted, the world he wanted to inhabit. And he wrote Rishi, I think, a lot like him. And when he offered me Rishi, first of all, I thought this is a chaotic film, but the character is lovely and the director is irresistible. I have a schizophrenic career. I have Aparna Sen, Santosh Sivan, Sudhir Mishra, Govind Nihalani, Buddhadev Dasgupta. On the one hand, all of them national award winners, international award winners. On the other hand, I have Dave Benegal, Kaizad Gustad, Shujoy Ghosh, Saket Chaudhary, Pyaar Ke Side Effects, Samar Khan, Shaurya, Vinta Nanda, White Noise, Barnali Re Shukla, Kucch Luv Jaisaa, Anvita Dutt, Bulbul, this film that's just going to come out on the 24th on Netflix. I mean, it's schizophrenic. There's nobody in the middle. It's not like, I've used somebody who's made 5-6 films. So the reason why I love first-time filmmakers is because I fall in love with them. Then I fall in love with the film. So with Jhankaar Beats, what did I have to do? I had to learn the drums, which PNC, Pritish Nandi Communications and Rongita had fixed up for me to learn in a seminary in Mazgaon with a priest who used to leave his drum beat open and he used to just keep a music thing and say, now you play the drums like this. And the first song he played was, we will rock you. Do, do, tush, do, do, tush. We will rock you. Tush, do, do, tush. Na 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 na. And I was like, okay, I got that basic beat. Then I began to get the whole and so then I began to listen to the songs. Vishal is a drummer himself, very talented. So, got into that. So that was that part of it. Then there was the biography of the character, which I discussed with Shujoy. Where did he come from? And she was like, oh God, you're asking me so many questions. I have to think about this character, etc., etc. So I plumbed him for all of that. Then the chemistry between Shayan, Sanjay and me. We had the best time. If we hadn't gotten along, we would still have faked it. But it so happened that we got along really well. Juhi was amazing to work with. The songs were superb. Till today, Tu Aashiki Hai is one of the best songs that I've heard in my life in cinema. Forget about whether I was in Jhankaar Beats or not. I refused to sing for the song. I refused to sing for the film. Shujoy wanted to give me a much bigger singing role, but I still had that chip on my shoulder that unless I am singing, why should I lip sync? Till today, he curses me for not having sung more, and I curse myself today. But Teri Chahat, I still sang that against my uppity, snobbish, arty, being in the character values. I still did that, and I regret not having done more of that in Jhankaar Beats. He really wanted to give me more of a singing part, especially on the last song. So I said, I'll be the drummer in the back and stuff like that. So that was my mistake, and I regret it. But we enjoyed it. The atmosphere on the set was the atmosphere in the film. There was no faking it. We had a good time. We cribbed. We complained. We enjoyed. We laughed. We joked. It was the whole tone and tenor was set by Shujoy. I mean, any actor out there who wants to work with somebody who is a kind, generous, warm, scatterbrained, I'm sure not anymore, chaotic, I'm sure not anymore. But even the way I buttoned my shirts, it was as Shujoy would come on set. That's how he would button his shirts, holding that 2-in-1 up on that seaside with the shirt buttons flapping. That is Shujoy. So, it was magnificent. I love working with first-time directors because once I fall in love with them, you just want to make. Summer came to me before making Shaurya and said, the last film I made wasn't great. I'm not proud of it. I want to make a film that I just want to be proud of. And whenever we shot the film, and I felt he was compromising a little bit, I would take him aside and say, Summer, remember what you told me? You want to make a film that you want to be proud of? Don't. Go for it. Stay with your instinct. Don't compromise. I'm here. I'm with you. We'll do it. You want me to have a chat with the producers? I don't mind, but we must do it the way you want it to. So, that's the soul of first-time directors, which is why, despite having this scary intellectual reputation and what will he say and stuff, a lot of first-time directors have come to me because the previous first-time directors told them that, working with this guy actually is a massive pleasure because he's just lovely to have on the set because I try to make their dreams come true.
It's been one of your films that I personally might have watched at least 10 times. And there was a special message that came from Siddharth at the start of the session saying that you have to talk about Jhankaar Beats. So I'm sure Siddharth also, I can see him smile, and I'm sure he also was waiting for some kind of a connection built. There have been so many movies that you've done, and
Imran, 1 second. I'm going to put the lights on because
of course, yeah.
Because I think the light is dimming.
Yes.
Give me 1 second.
So guys, till then, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, maybe you can put them in the chat box right now, and I'll bring you up.
Oh boy. Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Superb. The other one, the other one that I think a lot of people have actually put as a question is some share on your experience on working with again Kareena and Chameli.
Yeah, sure. So Kareena is one of the most naturally talented actors I've worked with in my life. Her intuition, her instincts, bang on. I mean, she's such a talented actress. She's also such a lovely person to work with. Look, she was a superstar.
Yeah.
I was an actor. The film was in any case her film. I had a supporting role, you can say, in that respect. She got awards for it, as she deserved to. But she never made me feel that she's the diva and that I'm, helping her, just, feeding her lines. We had an equal relationship on set, which is the credit should go to her and to Sudhir Mishra. We talked about it together. Sudhir and I had a great rap. We enjoyed ourselves immensely, despite him taking the film over just as it started, because very sadly, Anant Balani, the original director of the film, passed away. The film's been shot. I call him Mr. Mish. Mr. Mish and I had a great relationship. We continue to have wonderful chats and laughs and jokes. So three of us had great fun. And Rongita, again, it was a PNC film. I did 4 films with PNC. That was one of the films. Jhankaar Beats, Pyaar Ke Side Effects, Chameli, and Mumbai Matinee. So Kareena was, I can't say humble. She was a real person who I acted with. And I remember there was some show and I used to imitate Kareena to Kareena. And there was some show that she came on, that I was on, and she said, please ask Rahul to imitate me. And I was like, what a sport. I mean, how amazing. She loved the fact that I used to, she loved my imitation of her. So that just goes to show what a real, unaffected, joyous person that she is. And, what can I say? I consider myself to be deeply fortunate, because when we were acting together, she was bang on. I mean, I used to call her Chams, Chameli. I said, Chams, it was a fantastic scene. And she was always very, very grateful and real about accepting those compliments. And if I wanted to rehearse, or if I screwed up a shot or whatever it was, I never felt, oh my God, this is superstar Kareena Kapoor who I'm talking to, or who I'm asking another shot for. It was just 2 actors working to create the best that they could together.
So I have Shivam Agarwal, who's actually helped us out putting this show together. Shivam, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, sir. I'll be honored to ask questions. Hello, sir. It's been a pleasure listening to you. So what I want to ask is, as young writers and young filmmakers, we are often looking for a lot of validation in our work. So now as a writer, I wrote a film, a very Woody Allen-esque Coen brothers kind of a script. And the thing is, on paper, I wasn't able to convey my vision to the people, the mentors I was showing my script to. So these kind of experiences are often very overwhelming for a young writer. So how does one move on from that? Or how does one better convey the vision? Because when the plot is also not linear, it's even more difficult to convey the vision.
Well, you were pitching it to directors, and you were pitching it to who?
No, I was just showing it to the mentors who I have learned filmmaking, film analysis from. And I mean, though they never told me that they don't get the vision, I could just see it on their faces. Because thing was, it was going very non-linear, and the concept in itself was kind of complicated in terms of dealing with self-image and a very dark, gritty scene. And that was kind of very overwhelming for me to go ahead. So how does one get over this experience?
Well, the first thing to do is you have to be thoroughly critical of your product and ask yourself, have you tried too much? Does it sing on paper? If it does sing on paper, then don't present it. Ask people to read your work. A lot of writers are terrible at presenting their work. So they just say, just read it. And I prefer reading stuff. I hate taking narrations, because I just want to see if it sings on paper. So if you feel it sings on paper, then have people read it next time, and don't present it yourself. If you feel it is very confusing on paper, then you're in trouble, because then you are truly not being able to put down on paper what people should be able to visualize and see. And I've just finished a film that slashes forward and back between timelines, that works forward and back between the imaginary and the real, and you still get it. So you should write it better, or you should write it less, or if it's fine, then you should stop presenting and let your words speak for yourself. So, you know, great writers don't have to be great presenters of their work, or you get somebody else to present it for you, if that's what you have to do to pitch it to people. But, you know, there are some people who pitch their work very successfully and some people who don't. And, you know, as I said, first have a look at your product. Is it really as good as you think it is? Because if it isn't, it'll save you a lot of grief after that.
Thank you. Thank you. I have the next one from Pearl. Pearl, I have unmuted you. You want to go ahead with your question?
Yes. Hi, Rahul. I am a great fan of yours. And
my condolences.
Okay, it's not for your real life, although your real life is highly commendable, but for your real life, and which you have given a very less glimpse of. And so my question is two-part. One is, how did you decide to do a film like Pyaar Ke Side Effects? I mean, I had to sit through the movie only because of you. And the second thing is, what is your how will you guide a first-time writer? What are your tips for a first-time writer?
You thought Pyaar Ke Side Effects was bad?
I know you and Suchitra Pillai were bearable, and your conversation with her was a little okay, but then I don't know otherwise what was happening in the movie. I mean, okay, I understand you were a confused guy, and guys have this commitment phobia and they do that. But
okay, fine. Absolutely fair. Fair, absolutely fair.
The movie was a little unacceptable.
What was your question about Pyaar Ke Side Effects?
Like, what made you choose the movie? Like,
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it.
What
I thought it was so real. I thought it was so real. People were calling up from the cinema hall about their boyfriend or their girlfriend. My God, I can't tell you. People are rolling in the eyes out here. Everybody was like identifying with the film about men's commitment phobia, about girls from Delhi, boys from South Bombay, boys who speak big words. All those jokes we put in after we cast Malika. I wrote those. I gave Sakib those jokes. Call me the South Bombay boy who uses big words. And Delhi ki ladkiyan. So we had to, earlier we were thinking it'll be some girl from Bombay. But when it was Malika, we had to, change those things. I thought it was vibrant. I thought it was real. I thought it was so identifiable on one level. And I thought Sakit had a great sense of humor, breakup song. And he keeps crying to that one breakup song. And, and Baby Doll 1, Baby Doll 2, Baby Doll 3, torn between love and lust, all of those things. And the father-in-law who covers everything in plastic. You know how Indians are, till the plastic comes off, they just never take the plastic off. So I just thought it was just so wittily written. I loved it. It was a no-brainer for me. It was an absolute no-brainer for me. I would work with Sakit in a heartbeat again.
I love that movie too. I think.
And the second question was, what advice do you have for a first-time writer? First, write a story. Forget about screenplay dialogues. Just write a story. Write a story which is really interesting to you. Then see if you can see it. Some stories you can't see. Some stories are not cinematic. See if this story can be seen. Can it be cinematic? And if it is, then you can think about writing. What I do next is I write an episodic breakdown. Like your grandmother telling you the story over 6 nights. फिर क्या हुआ? फिर क्या हुआ? फिर क्या हुआ? Then you break that down into इस episode में यहाँ पे ये scene हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ये scene हो रहा है, वहाँ पे ये scene हो रहा है, यहाँ पे ये scene हो रहा है. And then finally you get into actually writing the scenes with dialogue and putting the whole thing together as a screenplay. And then of course how to polish the screenplay is different. But first write a story. Write a story that everybody wants to know what happens next. Everybody is interested. It's an intriguing story. After that, you can then think of writing it as an episode. But first, the story should be very interesting. Then you can only make it more interesting. But it has to start off by having a grab value. That, oh wow, that's really interesting. Even it could be 3 lines. or it could be 50 lines.
Amazing. So, so with this, I think we're coming to a closure of our evening. Jitendra, Siddharth, you're also here. Maybe a last line, and then maybe we'll leave it to Rahul to end with a small line, and then we'll call it a day.
Rahul, once again, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for taking out, 2 hours to walk us through your journey. At one stage, I thought I had reached Japan. So I really, really think the power of your conviction through your storytelling, your ability to connect with audiences, I think your genuinity as, a director, all of these have been very, very inspirational for all our students today and the wider audience. Once again, on behalf of Dr. Shahani, on behalf of all the students, of all the faculty, thank you very, very much. And, we, all of us, I think, can't wait for the lockdown or COVID to move on so that we can have you with us on campus and inspire what we hope is the next generation of filmmakers and actors who would aspire to be like you. Rahul, thank you.
Well, you can
very
all
much.
watch Bulbul on the 24th.
Yes.
I think you'll enjoy it. And you have never
Yes,
seen me playing. You've never seen me doing what I'm doing in that film. Never.
Great.
Cool.
So we've got another 7 days countdown, and we're all,
think-
with bated breath.
I think
waiting
Sid,
for that.
we should put up a Netflix party, because there's a suggestion from Pearl, and Pearl will nod her head because she just put that in the chat that we should actually watch one of Rahul's movie together. We can bring everybody in and do like a Zoom party for Bulbul. Why not?
And we can do a chat on Bulbul after that if you want.
Oh yes,
Yes.
We'd love to. We'd love to do that. We'd love.
I'll get the director of Bulbul and I'll come and we'll chat.
I will bring the director of Outreach, whose name is also Bulbul, and we'll make it a good one.
cool. Thank you, Rahul, for sitting through all my questions. Sorry I troubled you too much, but it was fun listening to you. And 2 of our perennial questions have been answered. What does a director do, and how does a director deal with actors? I'm very, very grateful that you answered those questions at strategies. Very great. My students are somewhere typing it on WhatsApp. That's something that we've not been able to hear from any other teacher. Rahul sir has been able to do. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I love you and learned so much myself.
Rahul, you're on mute.
Rahul is on mute. Yes.
Mute?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
To all the boys and girls, young men, women who have aspirations to become filmmakers or not, whoever you are who's watching, remember, if you're doing what is at the center of your heart, continue doing that. If you're not, at least chase those things that are at the center of your heart, which you can't follow maybe because they don't provide you with money or things like that. At least chase them as your hobbies, because who knows, one day they could become, the center of your heart could become the center of your lives also. So don't let them go, please. Hold on to them as tight as you can, even if it's as a hobby.
That's brilliant. I think
Thank you so much.
That's an amazing closing note. And Rahul, thank you for being here. Once I think the lockdown opens, hope to see you back on the rugby field, back on the screens, and would love to have that. We'll pick that up. We'll take it up and we'll pick that up of conversation on Bulbul and that one. So I think Jitendra, we gotta work on that also now. But Rahul, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's been an amazing evening, and to many more.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you, everybody. Thank you for being part of this. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Rahul. Thank you.